Welcome to the Jasmine Podcast.
Imagine your brain is a switchboard, and, well, every single light on it is blinking red at the exact same time.
Oh, wow. That sounds incredibly stressful.
Right. It really is. You were just trying to read a complicated paragraph in English, but your phone just buzzed with a news alert.
Oh, yeah, always.
An email notification just slid across your screen, and you are vaguely worried about a text message you haven't replied to yet. Your focus is just completely shattered before you even finish the first sentence.
Which is such a common experience right now.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
We talk so much about the mechanics of learning, memorizing vocabulary, studying grammar rules, drilling those flashcards. But we rarely talk about the mental environment where that learning is actually supposed to happen. And that is exactly our mission for this deep dive.
It is the most critical piece of the puzzle, especially for you, the listener, who is actively working to master the English language.
Yeah, because it takes so much effort.
It really does. You can have the best study materials in the world, but if your internal environment is chaotic, well, those materials simply will not stick.
Today, we are looking at some incredibly revealing notes we received on a concept called finding your flow. And specifically, we're looking at this fascinating subtitle from the source material. It says, Immersion as Therapy.
Such an interesting phrase.
I know, right? Our goal today is to understand how achieving this flow state is basically the ultimate secret weapon for English learners. But to understand the cure, we really have to understand the disease first.
Absolutely. We have to set the stage.
Okay, let's unpack this, because our source materials start by placing us exactly in the current moment, addressing a very specific challenge about the year 2026.
Yes. The text states quite clearly that our attention span is actively under attack.
Under attack. That sounds a little dramatic, doesn't it?
It does sound dramatic, yeah. But from a neurological perspective, it is a perfectly accurate description. The source is highlighting the reality of our digital environment.
Which is just everywhere now.
Right. We are constantly demanding that our brains switch contexts all day long.
The text describes our current existence as a fragmented life. And I want to really pause on that word for you, the listener, because it is crucial. Fragmented.
It is such a descriptive word.
Yeah. When something is fragmented, it is shattered. It is broken into dozens of tiny, jagged little pieces that just do not connect anymore. You check an email, then you swipe to a social media feed, then you tap a notification, then you scroll a news site.
Just endless switching.
Right. Swipe, tap, scroll, switch. Over and over.
And the thing is, every single time you make one of those tiny switches, your brain actually pays a toll. Psychologists call it a switching cost.
A switching cost, like a tax on your brain.
Exactly like a tax. Your brain has to completely dismantle the mental framework of whatever you were just looking at, and then entirely reconstruct a new framework for the next app. It takes a massive amount of cognitive energy.
The source notes specifically use this analogy of having too many tabs open on a computer browser. But let's look at what is actually happening inside the machine when you do that.
It's not pretty.
No, it's not. You don't just have 20 tabs open. You are constantly clicking between them. Behind the screen, the computer's processor is just desperately trying to allocate memory.
It's scrambling.
Right. It starts spending more energy just figuring out what to load next than it spends actually running the programs. The fan starts spinning loudly, the screen freezes, the whole system basically panics.
What's fascinating here is that the source text takes that exact mechanical panic and directly links it to human emotion.
Wait, really? How so?
Well, it does not merely suggest that technology makes us distracted. It makes a direct causal connection to our mental health, stating that this fragmented life leads directly to anxiety.
Wow. Okay, I want to really dig into that connection. Because usually we think of anxiety as being worried about a specific problem, like an upcoming test or a big presentation at work.
Right. Situational anxiety.
Yeah. But the source is describing a completely different mechanism for anxiety, isn't it?
It is. This is not anxiety about a specific event at all. This is structural anxiety.
Structural anxiety.
Yeah. When you constantly force your brain to switch contexts, you are keeping it in a perpetual state of high alert. It is the anxiety of a system that knows it is dropping data.
Oh, like it knows it's failing to keep up.
Precisely. Your brain recognizes that it is stretched way too thin, that it just cannot process all this fragmented input, and so it sounds an alarm bell. That low-level, constant alarm bell is the anxiety of 2026.
Which brings us to a massive roadblock for our listener today. If your brain is constantly sounding an alarm bell and your mental processor is totally overwhelmed just trying to manage 20 different digital tabs.
Yeah, how are you supposed to learn anything?
Exactly. How are you supposed to absorb the complex grammar and vocabulary of an entirely new language?
The simple truth is you cannot. Language acquisition requires really deep cognitive resources.
It takes a lot of fuel.
It does. And if your resources are being completely drained by the structural anxiety of a fragmented attention span, your language learning will plateau.
Yeah.
You will just feel exhausted.
So if the disease of 2026 is this fragmented, anxious, constantly switching life, the source provides a really fascinating antidote.
The cure to the chaos.
Right. The text says the antidote is flow, which it describes as a state where you are so involved in an activity that nothing else seems to matter. You are in the zone, and the noise of the world just disappears.
It's a wonderful feeling.
It is. And the text explicitly refers to this experience as immersion as therapy.
It is a profound shift in perspective, really, moving away from seeing focus as just, a productivity hack and looking at it as an actual therapeutic experience.
I actually have to push back on this a little bit because, well, I am struggling with the use of the word therapy here.
Oh, tell me more about that.
When I hear therapy, I think of clinical intervention. I think of actively working through emotional trauma on a couch. But the source is suggesting that simply concentrating really hard on a single task like studying English can actually act as therapy for that modern anxiety we just discussed.
I see your point. It sounds almost too simple.
Yeah. How does doing work heal the brain?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to look at what is happening to those internal alarm bells. Remember the computer processor that is panicking because it has to manage 20 tabs?
Right, the one where the fan is spinning out of control.
Exactly. What happens when you close 19 of them and leave only one open?
Oh. Well, the processor instantly calms down, the fan stops spinning. It finally has enough power to just run the one program smoothly.
Exactly. And that is what flow does to your brain. When you enter a state where nothing else seems to matter, you are eliminating the switching costs entirely.
You stop paying the tax.
You stop paying the tax. Your brain is no longer frantically trying to anticipate the next text message or the next news alert. You are completely singularly focused.
I see.
Because your mind is entirely occupied by this one single challenge, there is literally no processing space left for the anxiety of 2026 to enter. The alarm bells finally shut off.
So it provides a sanctuary. That is so interesting. The therapy isn't about sitting on a couch and talking about your feelings. The therapy is the profound relief of mental silence.
Yes, beautifully said.
It is giving your brain a safe place to rest by giving it only one thing to care about.
It is active rest. The noise of the world disappears because you have finally stopped inviting the noise in.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the source notes take this broad psychological concept of flow and apply it directly to the journey of learning English.
And this is the core of it for our listeners.
It really is. The text identifies a very specific milestone for learners. It says that for English learners, flow is that magical moment when you stop translating in your head and start just communicating.
We really need to explore the mechanics of that mental translation, because it is the ultimate barrier to flow for anyone learning a language.
Oh, absolutely. Anyone who is listening to this and learning English knows exactly what that mental translation feels like.
It is exhausting.
It is utterly exhausting. But I want to map out exactly why it is so exhausting. Think about it like being a simultaneous interpreter at the United Nations, locked in a little soundproof booth.
That is a perfect way to visualize it. You are trying to do 3 complex jobs at the exact same time.
Right. First, you hear a sentence in English. Your brain has to catch the audio, pause, and actively decode those foreign words into your native language just so you can grasp the meaning.
That's step 1.
Then, step 2, you have to formulate your response in your native language. Finally, you have to encode that response back into English, checking all the grammatical rules before you can finally speak.
It's a huge cognitive load.
By the time you open your mouth, the actual conversation has already moved on. You are constantly living 3 seconds in the past.
Which means you are never actually present in the conversation. And if we look at the mechanism of what you just described, that mental translation is actually a form of internal app switching.
Oh, internal app switching. Let's dig into that. You mean switching between the 2 languages inside your own head?
Precisely. Just like switching between a news app and a social media app causes your phone to lag, constantly toggling between your native linguistic operating system and your English operating system causes your brain to lag.
That makes perfect sense.
Native language to English. English back to native language. It is a deeply fragmented way of communicating.
And as we established from the source text earlier, fragmentation leads to anxiety.
Yeah.
No wonder speaking a new language can feel so nerve-wracking and stressful for a learner.
Your brain is constantly paying that switching cost.
You are overheating the system just trying to get a simple sentence out.
But the source tells us there is a breakthrough moment. When you finally hit that state of flow, when you stop translating and just communicate directly in English, you are effectively firing the middleman.
Oh, I love that. Firing the middleman.
You are no longer managing two different apps. The noise of overthinking and translating disappears, and the meaning flows directly from your brain to your mouth.
You are just looking at the person in front of you or reading the text on the page, and the meaning is it's just there. You are living entirely inside the English language.
And that is exactly why the source refers to this state as therapy for the learner. You drop the heavy, anxious burden of internal translation. You enter a state of pure immersion.
Just floating in the language.
Yes. The sheer joy and relief of simply understanding and being understood without the exhausting mental gymnastics is deeply healing.
It is the moment the language stops being a complex math equation you have to decode and starts being an invisible bridge connecting you to another human being.
It's a beautiful transition.
But that raises the obvious challenge, doesn't it? How do we actually get there? How does the learner move from that exhausting UN translator booth into this peaceful state of flow?
The source material provides us with some highly specific vocabulary to describe this journey.
The source gives us 3 distinct phrases, and these aren't just, definitions to memorize. They represent a sequential process of how the brain actually builds capacity.
Right, a step-by-step roadmap.
The text mentions deep work, a sense of mastery and being in the zone. Let's look at the foundation first. The source defines deep work as focused, uninterrupted work that pushes your cognitive capabilities.
A very precise definition.
I want to challenge that definition a bit, though. What makes deep work different from just studying? If a learner is reviewing flashcards on the train, aren't they pushing their cognitive capabilities?
Not necessarily. Reviewing flashcards on a noisy train while checking your phone is fragmented effort.
Okay, so it's that fragmentation again.
Exactly. It is passive maintenance. The key words in the source's definition are uninterrupted and pushes. Deep work requires you to step slightly outside of your comfort zone without breaking focus.
Think about it like lifting weights for your brain. It's like if you do one bicep curl and then look at your phone for 10 minutes, you aren't really building strength.
Right, the tension is gone.
It has to be hard, continuous effort. Or, to think about it neurologically, like forging a brand new path through a very dense jungle.
Oh, the jungle analogy is great for neural pathways.
When you are just starting to learn a difficult English concept, there is literally no path in your brain yet. You are standing at the edge of the jungle with a machete. Deep work is the uninterrupted, exhausting effort of hacking away at those vines step by step.
It's not easy.
No, you are going to get scratched. It is going to be incredibly slow and frustrating at first.
Because you are actively forcing your neurons to fire in new patterns. You are pushing your cognitive capabilities by demanding that your brain process complex English grammar or dense vocabulary without immediately retreating to the safety of your native language dictionary.
And if you stop every 2 minutes to check your social media, if you fragment your attention, the jungle just grows right back over the path you just cleared.
You lose your progress.
Exactly. You have to stay in the jungle. You have to maintain that uninterrupted focus. That is deep work.
This raises an important question. What happens to that path if you consistently apply that deep, uninterrupted work over a long period of time?
Well, the path gets wider.
Exactly. The brain physically changes. The neural pathways become insulated and highly efficient. The path goes from a rough dirt trail to a paved road and eventually to a massive superhighway.
I love that, a cognitive superhighway.
And when that highway is built, you arrive at the second phrase from our source text, a sense of mastery.
The text defines a sense of mastery as the feeling of being skilled at something. But for you, the English learner listening right now, I think it's really important to clarify that mastery does not mean perfection.
Oh, absolutely not. Perfection is a myth.
Right. Mastery doesn't mean you never make a grammar mistake again.
No, it is a psychological shift. The sense of mastery is the feeling of deep foundational trust in your own abilities.
It's the feeling of driving on that paved highway.
Yeah.
You don't have to think about hacking through the jungle anymore. When someone asks you a complex question in English, your heart doesn't immediately start racing.
The panic is gone.
Yeah. You don't panic and try to translate everything back to your native language.
Yeah.
You just trust that your brain will find the right words. Even if there's a pothole on the road, even if you forget a specific vocabulary word, it doesn't ruin the journey.
You just keep moving.
You just steer around it and keep going. That quiet confidence, that is the sense of mastery.
And it is only when you have done the deep work to clear the path and built that sense of mastery so you trust the road that you can finally reach the ultimate goal the source describes.
Being in the zone. The source defines this as being in a state of focused excellence.
This is the absolute pinnacle of flow. When you are in the zone, the mechanics of the language completely vanish from your conscious awareness.
You aren't consciously driving the car anymore. The car is just, driving itself. You are completely absorbed in the ideas you are discussing, rather than the English words you're using to express them.
It is a state of total alignment. The structural anxiety we talked about at the very beginning of this deep dive, the panic of the fragmented 2026 attention span, is entirely gone.
The internal alarm bells are finally silent.
Silent. Because your brain is completely, perfectly occupied by the joy of pure communication. The noise of the world fades away, and you are just there, fully present in the language.
It is an incredibly powerful journey the source has outlined for us today.
It really is a paradigm shift.
We started by looking at a very harsh reality of modern life. We live in a digital environment that completely shatters our attention and causes a constant, low-level anxiety. Our brains are overwhelmed by these switching costs.
It's a tough environment for a learner.
But the source material offered us a profound way out. By committing to deep work, that difficult, uninterrupted effort of forging new neural pathways, you can build a true sense of mastery in English.
And that mastery is what allows you to finally fire the internal translator.
You stop the internal app switching. You step fully in the zone, where the noise of the fragmented world completely disappears. You find your flow, and you realize that true, deep focus is actually a form of therapy.
As we close today, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to really ponder as you continue your English studies.
Oh, I love these final thoughts. What do you have for us?
Well, we have established, based on these notes, that flow is this magical moment where the noise of the world disappears and you stop translating in your head.
Right.
The old anxious mental habits and the heavy burden of managing two languages at once, they completely fall away.
You are left with pure internal silence.
Yes. So the question I want you to explore is this. What happens to your internal voice when you finally step fully into that zone?
Oh, that's interesting.
When you achieve that sense of mastery and you are purely communicating without the friction of your native language filtering everything, do you discover a completely new version of yourself?
Wow.
Does stripping away that anxiety reveal a more confident, spontaneous personality that only exists when you are speaking English?
Wow. Well, a whole new version of you, just waiting to be discovered inside the zone. That is an incredibly exciting thought to carry with you into your next study session.
It's definitely something to think about.
We want to thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We really hope this conversation gives you the encouragement to close out some of those mental tabs.
Definitely close those tabs.
Find your focus today. Protect your attention. Put in the deep work and let the noise of the world disappear. We will see you next time.